Oh man, Dirt X Podcast is proudly presented by DirtDiecastDeals.com. Use code DirtX at checkout for 5% off, and please stay green.
Welcome back, everyone, to the DirtX Podcast, Episode 8, presented by DirtDiecastDeals.com. I'm Jacob Dove of Phenom Motorsports, along with Jacob Perry of CushnBangn. Now, on today's episode, we're going to recap some of the racing this past weekend. Go to DirtDiecastDeals.com, check out his inventory, and for every order using our Dirt-X promo code, you get 5% off, and you get one of those cool koozies, too. Great for the dirt track. So, yeah, we're going to jump right in. This past weekend, there was some exciting racing going on. Talk about some of the highlights. Obviously, we saw a banger between Ryan Gustin and Bobby Pierce this past weekend.
Absolutely. Gustin did everything right. He had a late race Bobby Pierce, and that's just about as bad as it gets, right? So late in the race, Bobby's coming up on you for 50 G's, and that is the last person that you want behind you. And Gustin drove an absolutely perfect race. He couldn't have done anything different. Not really so much blocking. Bobby was in a different groove, but just enough to take Bobby's momentum away that he couldn't slide him or anything like that. So hats off to Gustin. I didn't watch Woo. I'm a huge Anthony Macri fan. I didn't see that one. I didn't see High Limit either, or well, it's just any of the other ones.
Looking at the list here on Saturday night, we saw Anthony Macri pick up the win for the posse. Exciting race there with David Gravel blowing an engine, which was kind of interesting to see. He's the points leader with the Word of Outlaw sprint cars. Obviously, the Ryan Gustin battle was really cool to watch. I know it was kind of a late race, but it was worth staying up for because that battle between Gustin and Pierce was really good to watch. Sucked that Shirley got spun out by Booby, but what do you expect? So, yeah, Brad Sweet would pick up the win with High Limit. They have a race tomorrow for the last Roto-Rooter midweek series race, and then they're off to the final high limit race of the season at Texas Motor Speedway. USAC sprints, Logan Seavey got the win, no surprise there, but Kyle Cummins clinches the USAC non-wing sprint car championship. Congrats to him and those guys. And then a lot of talk about this hunt the front stuff because, well, Zack Mitchell got the win on Saturday night after a long 100 laps with the Blue Gray 100. Man, I was watching that race, and it seemed like that race was never going to end. It seemed like Overton was going to run away with it. They had NASCAR-style pit stops almost. It was like these guys were coming in, taking two tires and changing them that were going on, and obviously Jimmy Owens ends up winning the championship.
Yeah. Let's rip it open real quick. At what point in time are we done with 100 lap races? The cars don't like it. The tires don't like it. The drivers don't like it. We got to stop. Like, I understand more laps, big money, big prestige, blah, 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 blah. You can do the same shit in 50 laps, 60 laps, 75 at most. You see Knoxville cut down laps for this very reason, mainly for fuel, but tires is an issue too. It has to stop. It's not needed. The same action can happen in 50. I would argue more action would happen in 50 laps than it would 100. But I mean, there's other drama there, but I just wanted to get that kind of out there, maybe a topic for a discussion. We'll see what the world thinks, see if they agree with me or not. But I think it's absolutely pointless, and the cars don't. They're not built for it. The tires aren't built for it. It just needs to quit.
Speaking of tires, obviously we mentioned about this has been a hot topic. I know you saw the screenshot, but online it says when you find out the penalty for tire prep and then go 19th to first, they were referring to the Coleman Farms racing team and Zack Mitchell. Obviously, it was unfortunate to hear the news because I mean it kind of came as a surprise. I was over working out at the gym, and then I get a text from you sending me that Coleman Farms put out a statement. I was like, oh crap, did Zack Mitchell get the boot or something for cussing too much from Coltman? But no, it ended up being about a tire that came back that was illegal from the Blue Ridge Labs. We've seen this happen before where it takes a couple weeks or even months to get test results back on these tires. And then next thing you know, Zack Mitchell loses his win at Southern, gets docked the points, goes from being only a couple points back from Jimmy Owens for the championship for Hunt the Front, and then gets the stick down to fifth. Obviously, ends up going into Cherokee and wins Saturday night, so he probably would have won the race and the championship. What are your thoughts about this? Obviously, Coleman Farms Racing said they weren't, they denied any wrongdoing, but I mean, it's kind of be a miscommunication here with the crew and the team.
Yeah, I don't know the full story there, but I mean, the same issue is still at hand that was at issue last year. That was the issue the year before. That was the issue the year before that, ever since this testing became a thing. We rely on one test for one lab, and it doesn't even tell you if chemicals were added. It just tells you it doesn't meet the same benchmark, right? It doesn't tell you any other information than that. And I have an issue with that. I feel like if we're going to test tires, you need to have more details. You need to have a second opinion on it, one and a bigger sample size. So it's the same fucking issue, dude. And nobody's trying to fix it. We just keep, oh yeah, we're testing tires, send it off. Okay. Well, I mean, Bobby had the same complaints, right? Everybody that's been busted on the tires and from the same lab has had the same complaints. I will go to bat here, and I will tell you the last team in my brain that I think would be prepping tires is that team.
To kind of light up the subject here, there's a Nicole. She's a photographer in motorsports, and she put up this funny thing here. It says, $6,499 out of our chicken count. What do you think it is? Meaning, engagement ring, and it's actually, for the tire bill, right? And that comes back to this these tire wars almost with these prices. It's crazy how much these tires cost. All the teams are complaining about how much money they got to spend. And even, I've heard about some of the USAC guys, even the top teams slashing tires. So that way the little teams can't even use them. So these Hoosier tires are just getting out of hand. I know Gateway are kind of be coming up with American Racer and Hoosier. That'll be kind of a test to see if, these brands kind of, go at each other that lessen these costs. But I mean, what do you think about this whole tire situation? I mean, it's like beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah, and let's face it, nobody's doing anything to fix it. If it comes from the touring series, if it comes from local promoters, if it comes from the drivers themselves, if it comes from nobody is trying to fix this problem. Hoosier claims they are, but they're not. They released a wider tire, supposed to be better for it, but it's not. And 100 lap races damn sure ain't fixing the problem. So nobody's helping each other. They're all just bitching about it. So as far as USAC, that's the first I heard of that. So the bigger teams are slashing tires so they don't sell them, or somebody else can't use them, or what's the deal there?
So apparently, some of the teams that are, top of their game that, buying plenty of tires is what they can afford and they can spend that kind of money. So instead of having a team that can't afford all brand new tires that use used tires for hot laps and, even sometimes heat races, I mean, it's been a traditional thing in sprint car racing. Even my dad talked about it back in Pennsylvania. They would go grab the other bigger team's tires so they could use it for another race and stuff. And it's kind of like a sabotage, not allowing these smaller teams to have any way of, trying to get an advantage to try to keep up with them.
Why is that allowed? Why is somebody not stopping it? Why is the series not stepping up and limiting? I mean, I'm assuming they're buying the tires at the track.
It's the thing, though, that have to put in a place where, say, USAC puts their foot down and say, hey, you have to get tires from us. Everybody gets their own set of tires, and that's it. It all depends on the open tire rule, right? Some tracks or associations have different rules. And if there's no rule that says, oh, like you can just buy as many tires you want and you can do whatever you want with them, then there's not going to be anybody enforcing it.
I mean, you can't really enforce it if they're buying it before they get to the track. The only way that I see to enforce it is to, I mean, you could. It would be a little bit of pain. Maybe give them so many vouchers at the start of the year and say, once you're out, you're out. But there'll be ways around that, obviously, and there'll always be what sort I want to use. There'll always be, friendships and everything else like that to get around that. But the main way I see to fix that problem is say, okay, you got to come buy your tires, and go-karts do it too. They're notorious for this to help cut down on shit like this. But you show up, you got to mount your tires there and everything else like that. Now, does that create more work? Yeah, but you guys want to fix the problem? It fixes it. As far as going to Gateway, I appreciate what Cody's doing first and foremost. It's been a social media topic. It's got some eyes on there, but let's face it, that track is not going to be a tire test. You're not going to see which tire is better than the other unless one's really fucking bad and just keeps blowing out. But you're not going to see tires are not a factor there. So
the last kind of bit here on this tire subject is, no knock on Jimmy Owens for getting the Hunt the Front championship. He decided to not run Mort of Outlaws or Lucas this year and just run Hunt the Front for the full time. And, he ran consistently, ended up getting the championship, the $50,000 bonus. And, it's unfortunate that we didn't see a points battle at Cherokee because I thought it would have been, fun, especially with how chaotic that race was at Cherokee. I mean, You had guys, pulling in the hot pit. I mean, I think there was like 8 cars in the hot pit at once at one time, which was absolute chaos. It would have been a little bit more of a headliner that Zack Mitchell came in the Cherokee and ended up beating Jimmy O for the championship rather than that disqualification. But CushnBangn, I want to know your thoughts on, is this tires thing, kind of keeping Coltman Farms Racing from trying to prove themselves wrong? Do they kind of go and protest this and say, hey, that tire, sample came back and that cost us the championship? Do we go and protest and try to get that championship from Jimmy Owens, or this kind of just set in stone now?
Well, I mean, you really can't. How do you protest that? Do they still have the same tire? Can they prove it was the same tire to get a secondary test? I mean, that ship sailed. They're boned. I don't know of a way you can do that. It's tough, man, because then the next night he comes from 19th to first, right? So you're having a hard time beating those allegations, but at the same time, if you're not doing anything wrong, stand on it, man. So it sucks, and no driver that's ever been, lightly tapped for this has ever won a protest or had a good idea for a protest. I mean, everybody has good ideas on preventing it, but nobody's doing it. As far as redeeming yourself from it, I think all of us race fans are starting to catch on that, this tire test is not the end all be all, right? It's not a it's not a thing, oh yeah, they definitely cheated. No, there's too many questions about it. So I don't think it holds as much weight as it should, and I think the system needs perfected in order to be perfect.
To the Dirt on Dirt top 25. I feel like this is our regular segment now about talking about this. I know a lot of people talk about it on social media. You sent me this list today. Um, no surprise, Ricky Thornton Jr. still up on top of the board here with the rankings. Some few shakeups. So obviously, they moved Bobby Pierce up to third over Devin Moran. They kept Nick Hoffman there in fifth. Down at the bottom is really the only shuffle. I see Carson Ferguson moved in. Ashton Winger's now in the top 25. Chris Madden got moved down because he didn't race this past weekend. Anything that stands out to here, CushnBangn?
Yeah, I mean Bobby gaining that much over Devin is a little suspect to me. After the shit runs that he's had, I still think McCready is highly undervalued here. I think he's a top five car in the nation currently. Um, I definitely think he's more than Garrett Alberson as far as finishes and everything else goes. But I mean, Brandon, it's like hit or miss. He's right there. But I think McCready is highly undervalued. I think. I think Gustin is getting completely robbed right now. Big check Gustin does not need to be 11th after winning 100 grand and winning 50 grand. So
Glad you brought that up because Gustin has struggled the past couple months, and it seems like he's kind of turning it around now. Got that big win the other night on Saturday, and yeah, he's trending in the right direction here at the end. But it's crazy that we have no more World of Outlaws late model races until Charlotte World Finals. This is it. First week of November is going to be deciding between Bobby Pierce and Nick Hoffman. So it seems like Bobby's going to be end up being the champion of that. Unfortunately, I'm going to be biased with that, but I feel like Nick Hoffman tried to gain some points, but it just came down to consistency, right? When we had Nick Hoffman on, he talked about he needed Bobby to have some hiccups in his races. And, when we talked about that penalty, I know we have some people that wanted us to talk about some of the Bobby Pierce controversy. So you actually got a message. We won't say from who, just kind of the rumors about that whole situation. I don't know if you want to expand it on that.
yeah, so text hit my inbox, and we're always begging for these, right? So this is the first one that's actually came through. So we're going to talk about it. Rather, I don't know any truth to it, but let's stir up the rumor mill. Bobby was in staging and he thought somebody was filming his car. I don't know from what team, I don't know from what crew member, but it was crew member on crew member, argument, violence, or whatever. Then Bobby jumped in until, the guy showed him his phone and said, hey, no, I wasn't. Here's the video. And then, all was apologized. So I think a lot of frustrations have set in for Bobby. You can kind of tell that in his driving with the way he's been running. I mean, it's tough going from arguably the fastest car in the country to having shit runs like this. And then, it's just tensions are at all time high, and that didn't help. But not that it matters, but I think Bobby lost a few pit friends that weekend. So that's the rumor mill.
Uh, not ideal situation, but we do appreciate any speculation on stuff to talk about, and who knows, maybe more stuff will come back, or maybe we move past this and nothing comes of it. But But yeah, rolling on to the Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series. Obviously, the DTWC is finally here at Eldora. We got Ricky Thornton Jr. and Devin Moran. It's going to come down to these two guys to settle out on who wins this year's championship. Obviously, RTJ won it last year. Devin is ahead by 15 points right now. Jonathan Davenport's a little bit too far back, 115 points behind. So yeah, we got to go ahead and make our decision. Does Devin Moran hold on to win, or does Ricky Thornton Jr. go back to back?
So is it mathematically proven that Davenport can't do it?
I mean, he looks like it's a far shot. He would need like Moran and RTJ to wreck each other or something and have a terrible night on Friday and go into Saturday even have a chance.
Gotcha. So I mean, this one's tough. The RTJ Eldora car is there, right? World 100 winner. Everything is finally in his favor for a championship. He's been boned out of it twice. Um, but everything's finally there. Ruthless aggression got him at last year, the race. But Devin is hot. Devin is peaking. And let's face it, Devin can win everything at Eldora, but when it matters. So is this finally the year? I don't know. I think you got two. I I'll say it. Two of the fastest cars in the nation going into this weekend, both at tracks they both do good at, and both have had the same type of struggles with. And with Davenport out of the picture, my prediction is Davenport wins the race, and then the championship's decided.
You stole my whole claim here that this weekend I think Jonathan Davenport was going to win the race, but obviously he's not going to be. He's going to come up short for the championship. But you know, and I know I've been biased on the late model stuff with the Word of Outlaws, but Lucas, I mean, Moran's a great guy. RTJ is a great guy. I like both of them. So I would be happy personally with either one. But I feel like RTJ is just, he had another successful year this year racing, and, he's had a lot of wins. Moran had an up and down year, and it's no, shortage of, talent. I mean, he's had the resources. Roger Sellers gives him a great car. They have plenty of crew guys and resources to get the job done, but seems like he, had some ups and downs, some bad luck, and that happens in racing. But coming down to this, if you would have told me Devin Moran was leading going into Eldora, I thought you were crazy. I thought for sure
Yep.
RTJ had it locked up. But I think with RTJ having his Eldora car now, and the trend shows these guys setting these Eldora cars off to the side, it really puts them all into this final race. And as long as RTJ doesn't have any mechanical failures, doesn't have any flat tires in the feature or anything like that, I think he gets it done. But yeah, JD's still going to do JD thing.
JD takes the race. I think Ricky can contend with him, but I mean, I don't think we saw the true JD speed at the World. And we all know how stupid fast that car is. It's a different level. It's Bloomquist-esque of Eldora. That is the modern day car of that. And I guess that runs into the question is, as long as the World Championship stays at Eldora, I know everybody's begging to take it away from Eldora, and that's a totally different topic, which is stupid, by the way. But if they keep racing 3-4 times a year at Eldora for good money, these guys are going to have Eldora cars, the ones that have the means to, right? So it makes it a little bit easier on Ricky. He's got a car that isn't wore out. He's got doesn't have to change everything, doesn't make it everything's perfect. He's just got to nut and bolt it and load it and go, right? So Devin's at a disadvantage for that, unless he has one that I don't know about, which is 100% a possibility. But for these guys that have Eldora cars ready, I think they're at an advantage.
Unfortunately, personally, I won't be at Eldora this weekend. I would love to, but obviously Ohio's pretty far from Florida down here, so I will be at a racetrack this weekend. I'll go ahead and put out there that I'll be attending Talladega Short Track and the Super Speedway. My first time going to Dega. It's going to be an experience. Obviously, I'm more excited about the dirt racing, I'll be honest, than the NASCAR stuff, but 2 nights there. Obviously, Red Farmer's going to be there. He's a legend. He's 94 freaking years old, and he's still out there going. So, it'd be a decent car count. More local drivers than national drivers. Everybody's going to be going to Eldora, but one to keep an eye on is Dalton Cook. He's currently leading the Southern Thunder Super Dirt Series points. Looking forward to that.
They're going to have 84 support classes, and that drives me absolutely up a wall. I hope you take your sleeping bag and your pillow. You can just take a nap in the stands.
Actually, that's the whole point on Sunday. So Friday and Saturday, going to be partying it up at Dega Boulevard, going over to the short track. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get red dust in places I never thought existed. So definitely got to get prepared for that. Obviously, Dega's a crazy scene with the parties, and the track is massive. So yeah, definitely going to take a little nap on Sunday during the Cup race, and we'll see if I wake up if there's a big one.
Let's talk about Red Farmer. I think we just kind of glazed over that. We got to emphasize this. How old's the dude?
94.
And he can still get in a car and he can still go.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I sleep in the chair wrong and take a nap. I'm down for 3 business days. So what a specimen of a man and an absolute legend. I hope I'm half as agile as his ass when I turn his age.
Just like the old saying goes, they don't make them like they used to, right?
No, no, they don't.
Over to talk a little bit about the push and flips. I know CushnBang's going to enjoy this, but we do have to talk about the final high limit race of the weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Obviously, it's going to come down to Rico Abreu and Brad Sweet. What are your thoughts? Obviously, Rico's had a pretty solid year, but Brad Sweet just won this past weekend. He looked really fast. So, do you think Rico's going to hold on and hold off Brad, or does Brad come in and sweep and win his own series again?
I think Brad gets it. Big track Brad, so Texas is not a small track for these guys, and I think it'll be good. And I think unfortunately Brad gets it. I know the world's wanting Rico to get it with all the hype going and everything else like that, and I wouldn't be mad at it either. But I think Brad gets it.
Personally, I'm going to go with Rico. Obviously, Brad's had a solid year. He's always the type of guy that runs the points really well. He doesn't win as much as he used to as far as racing goes, but he's always in contention for it. And I think he's going to be good at Texas. But Rico has been consistent this year. He's won a lot, and I think he gets the job done for the championship. And then finally, we can stop hearing everybody complain that Brad Sweet won his own series. So.
He won the series before that. He was like that's God. Get people are stupid. I hate people.
Well, if you hate people, you're going to hate a lot of what people are talking about right now in the sprint car world, and is Donny Schatz shot? Is he shot? Is he done? Because he's been absolutely terrible. And this is being in the nice way that Donny has nothing left to prove. Right? He's won 10 outlaw championships. He's had a great career. He's been in 4 or 5 different rides in the last 2 months, and he can barely make the show now in these races. And it's just sad to see. But I mean, like I said, he doesn't have anything to prove. I mean, if Donny Schatz retired at the end of the year, what would be your thoughts?
I think it's the I wouldn't want to say right move. That's what was getting ready to come out. I think it's expected. I think it's the expected move. But on this topic, shout out to Chaz. I'm not a huge fan on this, but he posted a video and I watched it. And I usually don't watch a lot of his stuff, but I did this and he absolutely nailed this situation, right? So Shots hops in, teammate to Wyndham, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So and absolutely looks like ass. Just looks like Overton currently in the late model world. Can't find his ass with both hands. But what's that say about Wyndham? Has Shots been this bad for a while now? It's all the evidence is pointing that way, and I hope that's not the case. I hope it's just a string of bad luck, and I hope Donnie can come back and contend. But all the evidence is pointing to Chris Wyndham being very much better than what we think he is, and Shots not.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of brought up about the late model things, because between sprint cars and late models, I don't want to compare them, but I mean, I can't remember a season where a full time outlaw or Lucas guy got the boot from the ride, and then they go and run 4 other people's rides to try to finish the year. Usually, guys would have just called it quits and run local, like Spencer Hughes did. He's running street stocks and whatever ride gets thrown his way locally. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody in the late model world do that in a long time. But with Donny Schatz, he's been vocal about just trying to finish out the year, and he doesn't really think. I don't think he has anything lined up for next year. But it just I know it's hard to jump from car to car and not find any continuity with the crew chief or the team. But I mean, for Pete's sake, he was ranting with Kyle Larson's Paul Silva. Paul Silva's regarded as one of the top crew chiefs in sprint car racing, and he wasn't even finding the front with that car. So it's tough. I think he's at the end of his career. I know a lot of fans don't want to come to the senses with that, but if he retired tomorrow or at the end of the season, I think you just have to congratulate him on a great career. And he has his nieces that are going to be running the sprint cars here, so I think he should put his focus into that.
Terrible. That should be child abuse. Anyway, because they're both great late model drivers, but that's my opinion on that. Yeah, I expect it. And maybe he'll do like I don't even know what the guest driver role. Maybe roll out 4 or 5 times a year, hop in a car just to sell some merch and, go out and pedal around. And I don't think anybody in the world would be mad about that. And some of imagine, taking your dad or grandpa or your uncle or something else. Hey, you want to go see Donny Schatz run? You're like, oh, fuck yeah. Period. You don't care about anything else. Some people don't. That's the only name they know. So for him to do that and still go out and make a decent living and do everything like that, nobody would be mad at. So maybe that's the middle ground.
Driver that in the dirt late model world made some changes this past weekend, and I know I already had heard about this move, and well, it doesn't really come as a surprise because it's no shortage that Bronson has not had the best year racing. He dropped off the World of Outlaws late model tour early in the year. He only has a couple of wins to his name, and he just needed a big change. And when I was at Needmore, I heard he was going to be switching engines. He blew 7 engines in the past year or so. That's a lot of engines to go through. Obviously, he was in the Longhorn, switches back to Rocket, which is who he used to run with, and he's even got Fox shocks now. This picture was taken at the Rocket shop in West Virginia. What are your thoughts? I mean, the car looks cool. It's just, is this cool looking paint scheme going to end up in victory lane anytime soon?
First off, that car is gorgeous. You can't just say it looks cool. That car is well done. That is a gorgeous car. But the 40 baloney is home. Rocket is home. He drives like a rocket driver. He was struggling to adjust himself to make that Longhorn work to keep up with the Joneses, right? You have to if you're doing this for a living. But I think he will see great success in this, and with Brandon leading the forefront on these XR2s, and I mean, Mark and Bronson have been, close for a lot of years, and I'm sure Mark didn't want to see him go, but he understood at the same time. So to see Bronson come home to Rocket, I'm not mad at it, and I'm sure he's not mad at it, and I'm sure Rocket's not mad at it, and I do. I think he will have a much better year in this car, and I'm excited to see it. No more bologna sandwiches.
Well, we really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I wanted to thank each and every one of you who have subscribed so far. We've only been a month into this Dirt X podcast stuff, and we have 50 subscribers. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but we really do appreciate every single one of you have subscribed. And, we're halfway to 100. So every time, we get to a milestone, we want to give you a shout out. And who knows, we'll have some cool merchandise coming. I know we've been trying to come up with some designs and some ideas. So if you want to see something, make sure to comment down below or tag us or share with us what you would like to see if you would like to support it. I know other podcasts have supported us as well, so we really appreciate that. Yeah, any closing thoughts, CushnBangn?
Yeah, I want to let everybody know that it's just us two on here. We don't have a production crew. We don't have anything like some of the big money pods. And we're not that talented, let's face it. It's when I say it's mainly us, it's mainly Jacob. So it's I'm just a mouthpiece here and a good marketer and a little bit of sales mixed into there and handle that shit. But as far as the hard grunt work goes, he does it. So please keep that in mind and please keep watching.
We really do appreciate that. We'll see you guys for episode 9. Keep tagging us on any intriguing content, and we'll see you guys in the next one.